The Republican National Committee is staffing up in 11 key states, expanding field offices, and hoping to gain some traction against Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump is behind in the polls nationally, and in some states he's going to need to win if he has any chance at winning the general election. The electoral map is already not necessarily in Trump's favor, but is it too late? So let's take a look. Jim Osman is the D.C. Bureau Chief for Media General. So my first question for you is sort of general before we break down a couple hypotheticals on ways that he can get to 270. How hard is it for the GOP nominee to get to 270? We saw Mitt Romney get to 206, but then he needed those 64 votes. So Donald Trump not only needs those 206, but he also needs 64.
Well, he starts off in a tough spot because really you have that Democrat blue wall where 18 states plus the District of Columbia have voted Democrat in the last 5 election cycles since 1992. So if Marco Rubio was on the ballot, if Jeb Bush was on the ballot, if Ben Carson was on the ballot, if any of the Republicans were on the ballot, Hillary Clinton would likely be starting at 242. So that's only 28 electoral votes away. So it's one of the reasons that George W. Bush says he worries that the Republicans will never see another GOP president in the White House in his lifetime.
The trend that you're seeing across a number of states that typically would be red are sort of already just inherently turning blue.
Well, and some of the states that were red are turning blue, like Virginia, North Carolina, Arizona, because of the Latino population. But if you think of states that are not going to turn red this election cycle, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, those are already in her column no matter what Donald Trump does. But the issue is that some of the states that he should be winning, like North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona, are starting to look like they could tip to blue.
Okay, let's look at a couple possible paths to victory. This first map that I want to pop up, I see a lot of red in a lot of battleground states. Ohio. I don't see Florida, which sort of surprised me because I'm under the impression that that's a state that is a must-win.
Okay, so we put these two maps together. This one I called the Rust Belt lane, if you will. And one of the reasons that I had Florida for Hillary Clinton is that I think it's a heavy lift for Donald Trump to win PA, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. Okay. Right? So this is one example of, I think, a Rust Belt victory where if his message takes hold in PA, Ohio, and Michigan, that those states might tip in a domino effect. That lane is a much better lane for him because it's about 280, 81 electoral votes. I think that's probably the most that he can count on in this election cycle. There is an alternative map, which I call kind of the narrow lane map.
Right,
which
not
is the
not
second
quite
map.
the 281 that we were talking about. But Florida is red in this one. That's why I was surprised.
Okay.
And Ohio went blue.
So Kellyanne Conway and I'm sure the other new advisors have probably have something like these two maps that they've been looking at. One of the reasons that I drew up this map as an example, it's 270. It's exactly what he would need. He would not have a mandate, right? So that's the second problem. He would win, and then what kind of presidency would he have? I put PA and Florida in this one because PA and Florida have older voters, and I think that if his message takes hold, and you know, certainly older voters, if you look at polls, his percentage of older voters is higher than younger voters. So my theory is that he might be able to pick off PA and Florida and narrowly win, but we still have other issues, as you were talking about.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, we only have about 30 seconds left, unfortunately, because I wish I could talk to you more. But what do these maps tell you specifically in regards to, are there certain states that he must win, or is it more of a combination, putting together a riddle and winning this electoral map?
I guess I look at it the other way, that if we're looking at Georgia being a possibility for Hillary Clinton in October, then Hillary Clinton's going to win the White House. If we're looking at Arizona as a possibility for Hillary Clinton in October, then she's going to win the White House. So that's how I view it, is kind of keeping an eye on the states that could potentially tip that we haven't seen. You know, North Carolina's been up for grabs, but Georgia, for goodness sakes, I mean, that hasn't gone since the last Clinton, since Bill Clinton in 1992. So that's it's a heavy lift for him in some states.
A heavy lift, and for political junkies, they love picking it apart.
And if there's one takeaway, is that this election is about Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. He has to win Pennsylvania.
All right, Jim Osman, we have you on record. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.